Hi everybody, this is Eddie Ghabour with Key Advisors Group. I want to discuss today how, in my opinion, the game has changed. And by the game, I mean the markets and the market players in this stock market today. As we look forward over the next 20 plus years, I think the game has significantly changed and it's benefiting the everyday investor. I think one of the biggest arguments on Wall Street is how everything's tilted to the big hedge funds because they have information that retail investors don't have. And I think when we take a step back at some of the things that has happened during this pandemic, obviously it was a horrible period of time and still is for some parts of the country and the entire country as a whole with how many lives were lost. However, when you take a step back and look at some of the good things that have come from it, from a stock market perspective and from how we look at markets on a day-to-day time period, which is what we get paid to do, I think it's put us in a position now where the retail investor is on a level playing field for the first time in maybe the history of the stock market, okay? Everything from the Reddit crowd, when you take a look at the Reddit chat boards, one of the interesting things is I think this retail investor, I don't think anyone took them serious at first. And kind of discounted some of the things that they did because it wasn't traditional investing and maybe some of the trades they did weren't based on fundamentals. But when you put that aside and kind of look at how they made their decisions, there's some pretty intelligent retail investors out there that are putting out some really good information. And with everything online now, and now even services that used to be really geared more towards hedge funds, is now available to retail investors. So I think the interesting dynamic here is this millennial group and these new era of investors, they're critical to the health of this bull market. And this is why long term, fundamentally, I am so bullish and optimistic on the stock market. Because when you think about this new group of investors, not only are they savvy, they know how to go online. There's so much information out there today that if they're trying to research a specific stock, they can get as much detailed information as they want when they make an informed decision. And when you also think about that demographic is they are generally going to be more risk takers than their parents or grandparents. So when you look at the demographics here in the US and you look at the amount of millennials and think about the baby boomers that are going to be passing on trillions and trillions of dollars to this millennial group as estates get passed on, as there's a transfer of wealth. There's a high likelihood, in my opinion, and look, I can't guarantee this. This is just us trying to look at fundamental backdrop of the demographics in this country. But one would have to believe that the folks that are passing away and passing their wealth on, that money is going to be going from maybe a more conservative investment portfolio. If you think about it, an 85-year-old investor today probably doesn't have 100% equities in their portfolio. I would argue that most of them probably have 35 to 55%. And when that money gets passed on to this new generation of investors, they're not scared to invest. They've been successful at investing throughout this pandemic. And it's been one of the most probably educational experiences they've seen. And why having this game change is so critical to not only the country, but the health of the overall stock market is, think about where these assets are going to go. In my opinion, as these trillions of dollars passes to these millennials that are now the future of our country and the future of entrepreneurship and the future of the stock market, I think you're going to see they're going to take a lot more risk than what their parents and grandparents are taking. So in my opinion, you could see a lot of assets flow from fixed income securities to potentially going into the stock market, going into real estate. And this type of money, it's extremely powerful in regards to moving markets. So the game has changed, and it has changed for the better. Now, I will tell you, I'll call them old heads for lack of a better word. I mean, no respect. They still haven't bought into this new retail investor because all they see are some of the day trading plays that they've made with like the AMCs of the world, the GameStops of the world. And that has really kind of taken hold of the media and really been the headline. But I think what's missing and is not reported in the headline is how much due diligence these millennials are actually doing when they invest. And I'm seeing this firsthand for the first time in my career. I've been doing this for 20 plus years. And for the first time, I'm starting to get phone calls from my clients' children. And they're sitting down with me wanting to learn about the market. And the interesting thing, and some of these kids are in college, and some of them are in high school, they actually are investing in diversified portfolios, and they're not speculating like going all in an AMC or taking some crazy risk like we're getting all in the media. That's what's catching the media's attention. But understand, that's just to sell ads and to get people to watch and increase viewership. What's really happening behind the scenes is this new millennial investor understands the game has changed to their advantage, and they want to capitalize on it. And as an investment advisor that loves this business and wants the fundamentals long term for it to be healthy, there's nothing more exciting to me than to have an 18-year-old want to sit down with me for an hour or two and try to understand the markets and understand how they can benefit themselves and their family long term by being a prudent investor. I can tell you, the kids that I have met with, I'm calling them kids, they are so far ahead of where I was at their age. And humbly, we've built a pretty good practice here, and I would like to consider myself a pretty good investor. So looking at these kids and seeing how much more advanced in the way that they think and the way they look at the world is leaps and bounds above where my peers were at their same age gives me tremendous optimism that this game is changing for the benefit. And the other thing that's changed is the way the brokerage world handles their accounts, right? So you can open up an online brokerage account and not get charged commissions for trades. So, you can have someone start off with just a few bucks to get their feet wet and to understand the markets, which a lot of times is what they'll do, is start with a small dollar amount and just to really educate themselves. And they can buy and sell and not get charged a commission. 20 years ago, there's no way in hell you could have done anything like that, okay? So we continue to pound the table. When I'm doing my national interviews, whether it's Fox Business, Yahoo Finance, Cheddar TV, CNBC, whoever it is, I'm trying to make sure they understand that long term, why we're so optimistic about the bull market has nothing to do with the balance sheets of corporations. It has everything to do with this new generation of investors that I think is tremendously smarter than the average person who's given them credit. And they're going to prove everybody wrong. And they're going to be a lot more successful than any other generation before their time. And I think this pandemic has kind of forced them to go online and do things that they would not have done if it wasn't for the lockdowns. And so this setback that we've had as a country because of this pandemic, long term may be one of the best fundamental changes that has happened in any of our lifetimes. And this is why I'm so excited about the future of this country, the future of this market, and the future of this millennial group and the way they look at the world. They are going to be a game changer. And so when you look at this market, yes, we're going to have years that market's not healthy. We're going to have months that it's not healthy. It's going to be volatile. But the fundamental backdrop, because of the trillions of dollars that's transitioning from one generation to what I believe is probably the smartest generation of our time, is going to be what takes this market, in my opinion, to levels that no one ever fathomed. And that should make you excited as an investor. And the next time you pass a millennial on the street, I want you to think about that. They may not dress the way that you do. They may not do the things that you do. But understand, they are a hell of a lot smarter than what many are giving them credit for. And time will tell how successful they are because of the way the game has changed. And so it is refreshing to see everyone on the same level playing field. So that way we now will get to see firsthand who will rise to the top. And my money's on this millennial generation. And that is why, again, fundamentally, I think they're going to take a lot more risk. More money will flow into equities and not bonds. And that is extremely bullish for the long term. But again, if you can't take volatility, you should not be in the stock market. And I think one thing this new generation of investors has shown us is if there's anything that doesn't bother them, it's volatility. So We'll have to see if we are right in our assessments of the fundamental backdrop, but I think it's crystal clear that this new group of investors is a game changer for the long-term fundamental playbook of the stock market. That's all I have for you today. Have a great day. If you have any questions, please shoot them to me. I'll make sure I address them on my next video.